Hi there, this is Shamyaza again. I'm creating a video that's a follow-up to my Poker, my Ferrari, my soul, and a gun to my head video. That was a sort of a refutation of the Pascal's wager, the sort of general why would I gamble with my soul when the virtue of heaven is so good, and I responded to that there, but I just wanted to expand on some of the thoughts I had at the end of that video. Um, Now, I'm an atheist because I lack belief in any supernatural. I've just seen no evidence for it, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But hypothetically, just say I became a theist and believed in the supernatural. Could I become a Christian? I think not, which is why I call this video Why I Couldn't Be a Christian Even If I Wanted to. Now, the reason that is because it's not enough to simply believe in God. You have to love Him. You have to really adore what He's done for you. And I just don't think I can do that. Now, when I say Christian at the moment, I'm not being too generalistic. I'm talking about your judgment and damnation style Christian, which is a lot, but not all. But that's what I'm focusing on, because they're also the ones I'm more likely to come into conflict with. Also, this video is kind of a motivation to my new friend and opponent, LittleGeorgeChrist, who's a quite fundamentalist Christian who has very differing opinions to me, but has been very polite and nice. So I look forward to his responses. Uh, okay, there's several things that get to me, which mean I can't be a Christian even if I was a theist. 1. Adam and Eve. 2. The hard life. 3. Heaven. And 4. Hell. Adam and Eve. Several issues there. Personally, to me, it's irrelevant whether you believe it's allegorical or fact. It's the lessons involved which get to me. If I've made some mistakes, please feel free to correct me in a video. But Adam and Eve are, as the story goes, pure and innocent people. They're like totally without comprehension of evil. They can't commit anything wrong because they can't understand anything wrong. And yet they're punished for an action they do. They ate the tree of knowledge when they were forbidden by God. And for their disobedience, they were punished. And not just, consequences of having knowledge. They were literally punished. Like Eve gets horrible childbirth. Adam has to work in the fields to get food. It's not just going to simply pour out from nature anymore. And that's actually a punishment the way it's phrased in the Bible. Now, if it's an allegory for life, and it doesn't really seem to make sense to me. But regardless, it's a punishment for people who can't understand the good and evil. It's like beating up children for being rude when yelling. That baby's crying all the time. How dare he? I'm going to shake him. No, really, I don't get it. It doesn't seem reasonable to me. Also, the story makes me uneasy because it directly associates knowledge and the seeking of knowledge with suffering and evil. And I understand that there are many ways you can gain knowledge unethically or immorally, but as a general rule, the search for knowledge as a abstract thing is a virtue, to my mind anyway. And so that makes me a little uneasy. And finally on Adam and Eve, even if you accept they were not mistreated, they were not hard done by, it was a appropriate response God had to their actions, then why did God allow His curse to pass on to their children? Those children are as yet unborn and completely innocent. Maybe at conception you have the original sin, but couldn't God prevent that? Couldn't God prevent of the new children born being tainted by their parents? Couldn't He have allowed them to not be, to forgiven them before they commit any sin, even in possibility? But He doesn't. He allows them to be born and to continue with their parents' ways and punishments, and that doesn't seem fair. Next one. Life. Hard life. Life, it's tough. We have to work. We have to spend effort to gather food, to gather resources, to get by, to deal with animals and plants and diseases. And yeah, this is just general things in life. And as a naturalist atheist like myself, that seems perfectly dealable. It makes a sort of sense. Like it's the way the world works. And most things I've encountered, I haven't encountered anything yet that doesn't have a reasonable explanation. But if you factor in an omnipotent God, He's allowed us to suffer those terrible things for no reason I can comprehend. So, like, for example, there's a fish. It's a parasite that lives in the Amazon River. It naturally attacks gills of other fish, but occasionally it swims into the penis of a human being, feasts on their blood, bloats to gross size, gets stuck, gets infected, and a person goes through such agony that they will castrate themselves rather than endure the pain. Now, that doesn't seem very necessary from an omnipotent God to allow that to happen. Now, I think an appropriate and ironic punishment for a flawed, callous, selfish humans would be to have everything in the natural world run perfectly for them. And despite that, I know humans, there would be bitterness and selfishness and jealousy and rivalry and clannishness. That would cause suffering on its own. And that would be a fair punishment for the evil of mankind, that they were punished by, with, and for the evil. That would seem to make sense. But yeah. Yeah, now heaven. Heaven causes problems for me in a weird way. Now, people go to heaven who they've accepted Jesus in their life. Their sins are washed away by the blood of the Lamb, and they go to heaven, and they live there for all time in the glory of God. With find their old friends who have gone to heaven as well, and they live happily ever after. But they're still themselves. The impression I get, like, no one assumes that heaven is for automatons, for robots, where you have no freedom. So they must have their free will. And if they have their free will, how do they not choose evil? Because if you choose evil, you can't be with God. That means there must be a way that God can resolve this conflict between free will and evil. Why doesn't He resolve it on earth? If it can happen in heaven, why can't it happen on earth? Why can't everyone on earth have their sins washed away and become good and free? I don't understand. Because it can be solved if people can exist in heaven. If they can't exist in heaven, then there's some whole other issues with a lot of apologetics. But yeah, so that concerns me as well. And finally, the absolute deal breaker, hell. As I said in my other thing, it's a horrible threat. It's side with me, love me, adore me, or I'll not kill you. I'll torture you for eternity. That's horrifying. That's like someone with a gun in my mouth and a gun to I know several beautiful young children who are non-Christians because their parents are not Christians, have never been taught to be Christians. So it's like someone has a gun to my head and their heads and saying, now, love me and mean it. That scares me because no, I can't. I couldn't. Not in those circumstances. Only if my will was completely broken could it ever work. But yeah. And also the justice of it. Like eternal torture. No one deserves eternal torture. No matter how evil. Like the most evil people imaginable on this earth throughout history, the most cruel, most selfish, most heartless, most sadistic, have committed a finite amount of evil in their life. A certain amount. Giving them equal pain for pain, like just say Hitler is in hell and suffered every pain he caused, that would make you as bad as him, not better. And for them to go more pain, that makes it worse. Who wants to be worse than Hitler? God. And yeah, so I don't think Hitler deserves eternal torture. But why should a 7-year-old non-Christian deserve it, who's died? No way do they deserve it. It's horrifying. So yeah, there you go. I can't be a Christian. Pascal's wager has utterly failed on me. Even if I was a theist, even if I believed that Yahweh, Jehovah, Jesus, Yeshua, whatever his name is, existed, I could not love him and worship him and accept him. So yeah, but that's not to say there aren't other sorts of Christianity. Like there are other sorts, maybe they forgives me, and if so, I owe you all an apology. See you later.